Hi, good afternoon. My name is Luis Ignacio Tupac Yupanqui, and this is my video presentation of the final report for class SPO 755, special topic, Spring 2, 2019. I'm going to talk about the Earthquake World Series of 1989. The 1989 World Series was the 86th edition of Major League Baseball Championship Series and the conclusion of the 1989 Major League Baseball season. On October 17th, just minutes before the scheduled start of Game 3 of the 1989 World Series, featuring the Giants and the Cross-Bay Oaklands, a magnitude of 6.9 on the Richter scale, earthquake struck the Bay Area, causing significant damage to both Oakland and San Francisco. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake occurred in North California on October 17th at 5:04 p.m. local time. The shock was centered on the forest of Nissan Marks State Park, approximately 10 miles northeast of Santa Cruz, on a section of the San Andreas Fault System, and was named for the nearby Loma Prieta Peak in the Santa Cruz Mountains. With a magnitude of 6.9, the shock was responsible for 63 deaths and 3,757 injuries. The Loma Prieta segment of the San Andreas Fault System has been relatively inactive since 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Damage was heavy in Santa Cruz County and less so to the south in Monterey County, but effects expanded well to the north into the San Francisco Bay Area, both on San Francisco Peninsula and across the Bay in Oakland. Due to the sports coverage of the 1989 World Series, it became the first major earthquake in the United States that was broadcast live on national television, and as a result, it's sometimes referred to as the World Series earthquake. Rush hour traffic on the Bay Area freeways was lighter than normal because the game, being played at the Candlestick Park in San Francisco, was about to begin, and this may have prevented a larger loss of life, as several of Bay Area's major transportation structures suffered catastrophic failures. The collapse of a section of the double-deck Mimits Freeway in Oakland was the site of the larger number of casualties for the event, but the collapse of man-made structures and other related accidents contributed to casualties occurring in San Francisco, Los Altos, and Santa Cruz. Even though the disaster was one of the most powerful and destructive quakes ever to hit a populated area in the United States, the death toll was relatively small and causing more than $5 billion in damages. The Bay Area was buzzing about baseball. The Oakland Athletic and San Francisco Giants, both local teams, had reached the World Series, though the stadium withstood the shaking. Other parts of the Bay Area were not as fortunate. San Francisco Marina District suffered extensive damage. Additionally, gas mains and pipes burst, sparking fires. A 1.25-mile segment of the two-level Cypress Street viaduct along the Nimitz Freeway just south of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, resulting in 42 fatalities when the upper level of the road crashed onto the cars on the lower level. One person was killed when a portion of the upper deck of the Bay Bridge, which had been scheduled for retrofitting the following week, collapsed onto the lower level. The earthquake caused billions of dollars in damages and contributed in part to the deep recession that California suffered in the early 1990s. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake ended decades of tranquility in the San Francisco Bay region. It was a wake-up call to prevent for the potentially even more devastating shocks that could happen in the future. Since 1989, the work of U.S. geologists, Geological Survey, and other organizations has improved understanding of the seismic threat in the Bay region, promoted awareness of earthquake hazard, and contributed to more effective strategies to reduce earthquake losses. Those efforts will help reduce the impact of future large quakes in the San Francisco Bay region. Let us not ignore the fact that there is no more important feature of the Bay Area system than its substantial redundancy, and no more important lesson from the 1989 earthquake, because they had other bridges that could substitute for the Bay Bridge. Motorists had several options to choose from because they had an alternative channel with huge and underused capacity in Bart's underwater tube parallel to the bridge alignment. Many trans-based commuters and others could get to their destination in time simply by changing modes of transportation. Fortunately, the Bay Area has a network of freeways, including parallel freeways, and an ample network of wide streets and urban highways virtually everywhere. They have a great transit system, some directly competing with one another. There are more than 20 local diesel bus operations, plus electric buses, electric trolleys, light rails in subways, and light rails above ground, heavy rail rapid transit, a suburban railroad, ferries, shuttle buses, and taxis, not to mention cable cars. In addition, there are more than 5 million cars and trucks, mainline railways, major seaports, and numerous small general aviation airports. So when the earthquake struck down several big highway structures, individual travelers and shippers still had many options. An independent and autonomous consumer of transport services, they exploit those options and effectively. For some, it took a little experimentation among unfamiliar possibilities during the first week or so, but then most soon settled into one medium or another, and virtually everyone got to work without catastrophic delay or cost. As a result of those millions of individual choices, the overall region transportation system also adapted to the broken links in the networks. Even though some routes were severely overloaded or subject to their most severe test ever, self-adjustment of route timing and mode by individual motorists kept even those roads from clogging up entirely. Congestion was bad in some places, but even there, they never did suffer the dreaded gridlock. Furthermore, Employers prove adapted too. Some accommodate by adopting flex time work schedule, others shorten the work week, relocated workplaces close to employees' homes, permitted telecommuting from home, and in other ways try to adjust to the truncated transportation system. Transit agencies responded quickly to keep undamaged facilities operating and to expand or install mass transit services where roads were closed. Truckers found ways around the blocks. Therefore, the effect of the transportation system failures was not nearly as bad as you might have expected. We are thus to conclude that, to a large degree, we can rely on autonomous and adaptive responses of the many components or the metropolitan system, and that we are not dependent upon central command or control management when natural disaster strikes. Individual employers, suppliers, and the various private and governmental organizations can be trusted to accommodate spontaneously. If supplied with enough resources, including enough infrastructure resources, the metropolitan system seems to be remarkably resilient. Candlestick Park in San Francisco suffered damage to its upper deck as pieces of concrete fell from the baffle at the top of the stadium and the power was knocked out. The game was postponed out of concern for the safety of everyone in the ballpark as well as the loss of power. The series resumed on October 27 and finished the next day. At that time, October 28 was the largest end date ever for a World Series. Even though the series only lasted the minimum of 4 games, only 10 days after this earthquake, Game 3 was held back at Candlestick with Dave Stewart back on the mound for the A's. The A's wasted no time scoring with Dave Henderson narrowly missing a home run for a double scoring 2 runs. The A's continue their great performance with home runs from Jose Canseco, Tony Phillips, Carney Lansford, and 2 by David Henderson en route to a 13-7 victory. Unfortunately, due to the damage and life loss, there will be no World Series parade, only a moderate gathering at Jack London Square that I cannot stop but wonder what a bittersweet win, knowing that so many people were suffering and that life must go on, and so many people wanted to celebrate with the victory of a team that had worked hard for this moment. I wonder if the players felt guilty of their happiness over the loss of their team. Sport have and always will be a way of surviving to any catastrophic. What better example of this than the quake date, where so many people survived by just being there at the stadium, remaining calm regarding of the swaying of the building and the loss of power. In the end, the bittersweet championship was dedicated to the victim of the San Francisco earthquake, and many were grateful that baseball was there to help ease their pain. Thank you very much.